Hello everyone, we're going to go through our switcher today and let's just jump right into it. You'll notice when we look at the switcher here that we basically have two layouts here and here that look pretty much exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here, we'll work through this one, and then we'll talk about the top one. This is our key section here. This allows us to overlay video on top of other things, our video underneath things. That allows us to put like the lyrics on top of the video that we're shooting. This section here is our auxes or our outputs. So you'll see here our aux 1 is capture, aux 2 is so capture is anything that we're recording, the live stream, the DVD, the hard disk that we're going to later edit and use for podcast. All of that stuff goes out through aux 1. So if you look here, you'll see that when we select aux 1, it shows us here what is being sent to that aux. So this white row is essentially the selector for the auxes. So right now, capture is being captured from ME2. Halls, that's what's sending to the TVs around the building. That's being sent the slides at this moment. The stage, that's the stage on TV for the pastors. That's black at the moment. The side screens in the room, that's set to ME1. And then our center screen is set to graphics 1. And then this is our shader, what sends this screen over here for the shader position. Next, we're going to look at these rows here that are our inputs. So we've looked at the outputs up here on the auxes. Now we're going to look at the inputs. So we essentially have everything that's coming into the switcher. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, camera 5, camera 6, camera 7, camera 8, camera 9. The feed from our front of house computer. The feed from our computer that's running all our slides 24/7. Our graphics 1 and 2 computers that show the lyrics on the weekends. And then our 2 logos. And then these are our switcher inputs. This row here is what is currently in program. So you'll see here our logo is in the program feed on the multi-view. This row here is what is previewed in our multi-view. So you'll see here when I switch those, you can see our multi-view changes. Right now, camera 1 is in program. If we want to preview something, camera 2, you'll see when we switch that on our preview camera, we get a different image there. Let's look over here now. Here is our essentially what we're keying out to. Don't really have to worry about that. This is what happens when we press the auto transition button. We really never change that either. We always do dissolves. So you'll see here wipes. You can see what's happening there. We don't want that. We don't want that. And media would be like if we're using keyed media to bring things in and out, which we never really use. We just dissolve. So 3 things here. This is our roll clip, which we do not use. We rely on our ProPresenter computer to do all that for us. 99% of the time, you're going to use this cut button. That cuts between what is programmed and what is previewed. So when you hit that cut button, you'll see these 2 things reverse. Notice here. All right. This auto transition button is just a fade between the 2. T-bar here is if you want to manually take how long that transition takes. You can use your T-bar to be as quick or as slow as you want to. One more thing here, when you hit the transition button, you do have a timer here. Let me tilt that up a little bit. That you can set to frames. So right now it's set to 15 frames a second, which is pretty quick, but you can roll that up. Ooh, that would be forever. If you want to, set to 147 frames a second, and you can see that that is much slower. One thing of note, when you hit that, it does reset to 15 frames. So most of the time, you're either going to cut or you're going to use your T-bar. Now let's talk about the difference between this bottom layer, which for us is ME1, and this top layer, which for us is ME2. Essentially what's happening here is it's the same thing here and here, all the same inputs, all the same outputs, but we can route things in different directions based on our output axis here that we looked at earlier. So you'll notice here that our side screens here are set to MU1. That means whatever comes out of this layer, whatever is selected on this row, is being sent directly out to the side screens. However, you'll notice up here, our capture button is set to ME2. That means whatever is selected on this row is sending directly out to our recordings. What that allows us to do is to send two different things for what's in the room versus what's out of the room. Now, outside of the sermon, the majority of the time, we set those to be the same thing. So you'll notice that ME1 here is just set to be the input of ME2. That means when you switch to camera 3, what goes out of ME1 also goes out of ME2. So we're getting the same things on the recording that we're getting in the room. However, when we get to the sermon, you may want to do different things. That's because in the room, you can always see the screens. However, out of the room, you may not be able to see what's happening on the stage. For example, if we have this close shot of ME2, in the room, you could always look up at the center screen and see the scripture, or look at the TV and see the scripture. But if you're out of the room, all you're getting is that camera 2 picture. You can't see anything else. So what you may want to do is you may want to select, I want to take just the graphics computer and I want to send it out to the recordings, to the web stream, to the chapel, to the recordings, so that they can see the scripture that the pastor is talking about, while the live feed in the room stays with the pastor. One thing of note, we never take on the bottom layer a graphic. It always stays live because the people in the room can already see the graphic on the center screen. We never need to break that IMAG image in the room. I believe we've covered just about everything except for our layers over here. This is essentially goes back to the keys and what we're overlaying. So this button here, Graphics 2, is turned on. That will allow us to lay the output of Graphics 2 over the top of whatever is being sent out of the program feed. So I'm going to hit some graphics here. You'll see that turned on our graphics on our multiviewer and allowed us to see that over the top of the video. If I turn that off, you'll see that go away. So on 99% of the time, we turn that on at the beginning of the service and we never turn it off. The graphics operator is responsible for what goes up on that screen, and we always have it set to overlay. Alright, I think that pretty much covers the function of these buttons and these rows. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Thank you.